Hello and welcome to my channel, Ask Miss Melendez. I'm Miss Melendez, and on this channel we talk about everything education, what is working, what's not working, and how we can imagine a better future for our students. Today I have 3 great tips for you on how to learn best for you and your students or your child or whoever it is that you are working with. And I hope that you find it really helpful because it's really important to know how to learn when you're learning something new. So keep watching. So for my first tip, the one thing that I would say makes a really big difference when you're trying to learn something is to get in an excited state. Jim Kwik talks a lot about this. He is the founder of Kwik Brains. Amazing person if you want to go check out. He talks a lot about how you can learn and how anybody learns best, ways in which that we weren't taught how to learn in school, ironically enough. And so he talks a lot about learning in an excited state. So when you're sitting in class bored and you have a teacher who's maybe talking in a monotone voice, you're not going to learn best in that situation. You're going to learn best if you have somebody who is really excited. And I'm sure one of your favorite teachers, if you can think back, they were not standing behind a podium talking as if they wish that they were somewhere else. They were really excited. They were getting you into it. And you learned so much in that class because of how jazzed up your teacher was about it. And so the best advice when you're trying to learn something, especially something that might be a little bit harder, definitely make sure that you're in an excited state. And if you don't have control over how you learn something, take the information that you learn. So let's say, for example, you're in a class and you have a professor or a teacher who's just talking and that's their mode of, instruction. Then you can take that information and find a way to make a game out of it and learn in a way that makes the most sense for you. So make it fun and you'll learn a lot quicker and you'll have a lot more fun doing it in general. So that's tip number 1. So my second tip, tip number 2, is to learn in an intentional space. So what does that mean? When you walk into a room, you get a sense of what that room is all about. For example, you walk into a gym, you get the sense that this is a big open space, people are going to be playing a lot of games here, a lot of fun goes on in a gym. You walk into a library, you get the sense that it needs to be really quiet in there, maybe tiptoes, and you go in for what you need to do and you make sure that you don't bother anybody else in the meantime. So intentional spaces is huge. It gives you a social cue on how to behave in that room, but more importantly, it's something that allows you to learn better if you're in a space that is more beneficial for someone learning. So for example, you want to be able to have an empty space if at all possible. You want to be able to have a clear open table if you're going to be working on anything. You want to have bare walls if at all possible, or walls that are going to be more conducive to what it is that you're going to be working on. So let's say inspirational quotes or a lot of pictures and things that along the same lines as what you're working on. So you go into a classroom, very intentional space. You go into a science classroom, there is science all over the walls. You go into an English classroom, you're gonna have books everywhere. So setting up the space intentionally for what it is that you intend to do in that space. If you wanna be learning something, my best advice is to not do it in a space that you normally do something else, or you change the space enough so that you can change the way that your mind reacts to it. So my best advice, I know a lot of us are working from home right now, and it's hard when now your kitchen is also your office space, right? So a great way to be able to combat this and to be able to make your space intentional is to have something in that room that you either place down or you only use when you're working. So I read this in a research paper one time where if you have a light that is your learning light or your reading light or something that you only turn on that light when you are in like productive mode, that is going to be super beneficial because it's a trigger for your brain to be able to say, okay, light on, I am focused, I am working. This is no longer the kitchen space, this is my office space, and I am down to get everything done that I need to get done, So making it intentional or having some type of cue to let your brain know, yes, I am here, I'm down for working, I'm not gonna be playing or eating, this is what today is all about. So if you're unable to do that with any type of, things that you have laying around, finding a nice little corner that's just dedicated for that, anything that you can do to really dedicate a space for what it is that you intend for it to be. to go along this is kind of like a second tip. I would highly suggest you not to do anything stressful or heavy work loaded on your bed. And I know that might be easier for some if you live in like a 1-bedroom apartment or you live in a dorm room or something along those lines. It may not be as easy to find another workspace that's not on your bed, but try to keep your bed like a sanctuary. And if you could sit even next to your bed or find a chair that you can sit, off of your bed or something along those lines, please try to make your bed only used for sleeping, because having a well-rested brain is not a tip in this video, but it's a well-rounded tip to have for any type of situation that you're working on. If you are well-rested and you have all your Z's in, you're gonna be well-equipped, better equipped to be able to learn and do anything throughout the day. So that's tip number 2. Okay, so tip number 3 might be a little bit unconventional for some, but it's something that is proven to work, and it will help a lot of people if you do it effectively, if you do it the right way, okay? So tip number 3 is to take frequent breaks, okay? So your brain can only focus on one thing for a certain amount of time, okay? And this varies from person to person, and it can grow as well. So if, for example, you right now have an attention span of maybe around 7 to 10 minutes, which is lower than what the average adult has, but we'll just go off of everyone's using social media all the time, and so our attention spans are probably a little bit shorter than normal. So if your attention span is about 7 to 10 minutes, you can actively work on that, and you can make that attention span go from 20 minutes to an hour, and even beyond that, for as long as you're willing to work on it. And so the best ways of doing that is social media detox. Any type of social media or TV or advertising or anything like that, anytime you can detox from that, that'll be the best way of raising your attention span. So when you are focusing on something and you have a short attention span, you lose your attention, and then you go off and you daydream, and you can be off on a daydream for like an hour when you've only been sitting working for maybe about like 20 minutes. And you have to think to yourself, I've been sitting here for like an hour and a half. An hour of this time has been daydreaming. What am I doing? So it's important to be able to take breaks, because if after 20 minutes you lose your mental capacity to focus, then take a break, because you're going to be struggling more. Remember, the first tip is to be able to be in an excited state. So if you're sitting and you're stressing out and you're worrying about why your brain is elsewhere when it needs to be here, then you're not being excited, you're not really being productive, and so it's more productive to take a break. But how we take our breaks is essential in making sure that they stay productive breaks. So my first rule would be to make sure you have a timed break that is a good amount of time for the amount of time that you've been working. So let's say, for example, if you have an attention span of 20 minutes, then after every 20 minutes, maybe you take a 2-minute break, okay? Because if you take 5-10-minute breaks after every 20 minutes, you're gonna lose a lot of time, okay? So thinking about it that way, if you take a 2-minute break, this 2-minute break, I would say, don't scroll on your phone. Do something that's going to be a good break for your brain, okay? So coloring, maybe drawing a little bit of a doodle, maybe doing a couple of squats, a couple of jumping jacks, do a little walk around the block, maybe get up to have a snack. Something that's movement based is a really great break for your brain. It gets your brain moving in different ways than when you were sitting focusing on that one thing. And it actually is a break for your brain. You want to be able to take a break off of what you were focusing on, so that when you go back to it, you're super focused on that. So that would be my third tip for you, is to be able to take breaks, and take them as frequently as you need to, but make sure that they are intentional and they're going to be productive for you. It's really important to be able to work in ways that work for you, and do not work against the curve. Do not try to paddle upstream. You will not be able to be as productive as if you just do things in the ways in which your body wants you to, and that you learn best. So these are my 3 tips for you guys to be able to learn better, and I hope you find them helpful. If you have any other tips, please drop them in the comments below, so that we can all learn and grow with each other. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something beneficial, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.